Hey there, welcome to LSAT Demon Daily. I'm Erik, teacher with LSAT Demon. Joining me is the world's wizard himself, Matt Dumont. I called in the big guns today. Matt, we have an email, someone asking about internships and picking school based on internship possibilities. And that's stuff that you have done. So let's dive in. This is from Anonymous. Anonymous asks, I recently spoke with one of my undergraduate professors who has a JD, and we discussed some factors to consider when choosing a law school. I mentioned my idea of selecting a school based on the courts located in the city where the school is situated. For example, I thought it might be ideal to attend a school in a city where a state and or federal appeals court, because of the potential internship opportunities available nearby, including government offices. Plus, it can be costly to do internships in other cities over the summer. Any thoughts so far about that, Matt? You did internships yourself while you were in school, right?
I did. I did many internships, and I highly recommend doing that. You know, once you get into 2L, you can start to really branch out during the summer. Or not during the summer. During the summer, everybody branches out. During the year, you can start to branch out. You know, your 2L fall, 2L spring, 3L fall, 3L spring. And I was very fortunate. I did multiple different internships. I interned with the Attorney General for my state in the Criminal Appeals Division. I also interned for a local federal district court judge, so like a U.S. District Court for the District of Maryland. And I did do some summer internships as well with the state's attorney's office and also with the Supreme Court of Maryland. So I had a sort of, I think a lot of the things it seems like Anonymous is talking about.
Yeah. And you were at University of Maryland, and you said a lot going on in that part of the country. Did you find that the geographic proximity to DC helped make those sorts of opportunities available?
Sure. So I think to Anonymous's point, I think it's a valid consideration. I think it is something that you should think about. Like, of course, you know, number one, finances. Finances were high on my list. It was number one for me. And I have, I have a spouse, I'm married. So I had to consider those kinds of things, like for her career and, being close to family or not, like all of those relevant considerations. An absolute relevant consideration is what is available for you to work at while you're in law school, because you're making connections with people. Your professors might be from those organizations because they're nearby. They're going to be adjuncts. It's really cool when someone from the DOJ, criminal division, is teaching a class in criminal procedure at your school as an adjunct, because it's not just sort of like the nothing against the ivory tower of, tenured law professors. All of that is incredibly important and all the things, but there is some merit, shall we say, to learning criminal procedure from someone who's actively practicing it every day.
Sure.
And they go, hey, let's talk about this in theory. Let's talk about it in practice.
Yeah.
Not always do those two things meet.
They've got skin in the game.
Totally.
Gotcha. Okay, so it sounds like, yeah, Anonymous might be onto something here, considering the location and proximity to those internship possibilities. Anonymous continues, however, my professor, who, as we know, has a JD.
Okay.
We don't know if they've practiced.
No idea.
However, my professor strongly disagreed with this approach. He argued that judges in those courts might actually prefer students from schools outside the city, citing entitlement as a possible reason. This perspective surprised me, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Is there any truth to this, or is it just a misconception?
So my immediate thought is like, there are many courts in Boston, and I just can't imagine any of them are like, those local Harvard kids, not
Right.
interested, entitlement.
Give me someone from the University of New Hampshire any day. Those
or
blue collar
like
law students.
Yeah, like let's go farther afield. The University of Iowa, great
Yeah.
school. We're gonna choose them over the person that's local. I mean, I don't think that makes a ton of sense from my perspective. Like, I just have never heard this
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form. And I think being local is actually a huge, huge advantage for a very particular reason. Say you want to work in DOJ, right? How many schools are within like a local proximity to main justice in Washington, D.C.?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Quite a
Like
few.
20?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, plenty, but you have to consider that that is so many less than all the schools across the country.
Oh,
And the
sure.
value, right, like the value that goes in for being available during the semesters. I can, like when I was in law school, I could intern at DOJ if I wanted to during the fall and spring. Someone from Michigan cannot. Like,
No.
good luck with that commute. And so I think it's absolutely, I don't think it should be like number one on your list, but I think that this should be a consideration of what are the availabilities if there's something that you're really interested in particular. You know, there's a lot of appeals courts throughout the country. There's a variety of different setups. And New York is a good example. They have an intermediate appellate court that's kind of scattered throughout the state. Tennessee is another good example. Very long state. They have 3 different federal districts for the district court level. And so you don't necessarily have to pick, oh, I need to live in Memphis in order to have that access. So I think that anywhere you go is going to have some opportunities. But if you're looking for really specific opportunities, like I want to work on Capitol Hill in a Senate congressional office, or I want to work in Los Angeles at particular like entertainment hub court, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, but the one that actually comes to mind a lot is Delaware. Delaware has
Sure.
the Court of Chancery because of the legal system in Delaware. It's a very specific like business corporations court.
Yep.
It's the only place in the country that's like that. And so if you're really, really interested in interning at the Court of Chancery, I think you up your ability to do so if you live within a reasonable distance so that you make the 2L and 3L years available to you, where it's a much smaller applicant pool. You're going to be working for them for a longer period of time. There's a lot of good value that you could get from interning during a semester, getting out of your law school and doing this kind of practical skills.
Yeah. And like you said, you might have those adjunct professors with direct ties to the offices and to the individual judges in some case that you want to work for. So,
Totally.
and that's all crucial. Maybe we can wrap this up by Matt, just give us a peek behind the curtain of how you might go about getting a judicial internship. Like, is that connection that you make, the networking, a really critical part of that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, my school, University of Maryland, it's a perfectly good school. It is not one of the best schools in the country, though, by any stretch of the imagination. It's not one of the best schools in the DC area. We have GW, Georgetown, University of Virginia, all ranked significantly higher than University of Maryland. I'm biased. I think University of Maryland's awesome. And we are the, quote, best school in our state where there's only 2 law schools. But the thing that is nice, because we're close to DC, because we're close to Annapolis, where the capital of Maryland is, because Baltimore happens to be the sort of like legal center of the state, we have judge meet and greets there. They come to the school and you mingle with them, and that leads to interviews, that leads to application stuff. You go to your career development officer and you're like, hey, I'd really like to intern on this court. And they give you, a variety of different judges who graduated from, drumroll, University of Maryland,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there's plenty of homegrown opportunities for those kinds of things. And the judges, in my experience, actually like to hire from their alma mater if the candidate is qualified. Of course, you have to show up with the grades, you have to show up with the knowledge, you have to show up with the skills. But there are many, I've seen many emails come from the career development office at my school where they're like, we want more applicants from University of Maryland. Send in your stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that this recommendation is actually diametrically opposed or complete opposite of my experience. Just that, like, I graduated in 2023, not too long ago, right?
Yep.
So applying for a judge, for an internship, it's lower stakes. You're not quite expected to rise to the level of like what a clerk would be, but then show up, do good work, and it might just lead to a clerkship for you like it did for me. I was really, really fortunate that I clerked on the Supreme Court of Maryland. My judge, when I was applying for clerkships post law school, he was like, hey, I can't hire you because of my policy that I don't hire interns, but I'm going to make some phone calls. And he called one of the other justices on the court. I had an interview. I clerked for a year. It was awesome.
Nice.
That kind of pipeline is totally a thing. And I highly recommend taking it into account as you choose where you want to go to school.
Great. Email daily@lsatdemon.com if you'd like to ask us a question or share some LSAT or law school admissions news. Thanks for listening.